We arrested 59 suspects were in custody and the operation is ongoing.
Kwa wale wachache ambao wanafikiria ya kwamba wataweza kutumia dini kuua Wakenya wenzao, mimi tunasema leo kinaganaga ya kwamba sio katika taifa la Kenya.
Dozens arrested as the death toll rises from the Likoni church attack.
The bullet is in the brain. We are working with the unit in Kenyatta to see whether the child can be operated at Kenyatta.
And saving baby Osinya, 2-year-old Likoni attack victim fights for his life. Plus, death toll in Uganda's Lake Albert's boat tragedy rises to over 100.
And one of a kind, a special church for the deaf.
This is KTN Prime with Nancy Kachungira and Ben Kitili.
It is Monday, the 24th day of March 2014, a day after the unfortunate attack on the Joy in Jesus Church in Mombasa. Welcome to KTN Prime.
Yes, thank you for joining us this evening. Our sign language interpreter is Naresha Owiti. Now, close to 100 people have been arrested in connection with yesterday's raid by gunmen on that church in Likoni.
The arrest followed an overnight and day-long operations by the police.
Now, this comes as senior government officials led by Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Olelenku held a crisis meeting following the attack.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has also issued a stern warning to those he says are out to cause mayhem in the name of religion.
At the Joy in Jesus Church in Likoni, stark reminders of the Sunday morning attack were still evident. Senior police officers led by the 2 Deputy Inspector Generals of Police visited the church as police defended themselves over accusations of incompetence in handling security matters.
It may not be practical in view of the number of officers that we have in the country to place a policeman in every corner. And that is why the government has introduced community policing and Nyumba Kumi initiative.
We might not know them, but you know them. You better tell us where they are so that we can dismantle them. If you talk about terror cells, it means you know them. But have you been able to give that information?
As the Deputy Inspector Generals of Police visited the scene miles away in Nairobi, Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Olelenku met top security officials over the Likoni attack. The meeting was held as police at the coast continued with an operation aimed at arresting suspects.
We've gotten leads so far, very good leads, and we believe possibly even before the end of the day, we may have people who are directly involved in this in custody.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is putting on notice those he says are bent on destabilizing the country's security in the name of religion.
Kwa wale wachache ambao wanafikiria ya kwamba wataweza kutumia dini kuua Wakenya wenzao, mimi tunasema leo kinaganaga ya kwamba sio katika taifa la Kenya.
The president spoke during a stopover in Kitengela during his road trip to Arusha.
Na yale ambayo mtasikia ikiendelea kuhakikisha ya kwamba tumeimarisha usalama. Mimi sitaki mtu aseme au anene ya kwamba sisi tunabagua dini. Sisi tunabagua na tunapambana na magaidi na mahalifu.
The U.S. ambassador to Kenya, who spoke in Mombasa during an event to mark the World TB Day, pledged the U.S. government's support in the fight against terror.
The United States condemns such attacks without reservation. And I want to say that whatever the reasons may have been for the people who carried out this attack, it was completely and totally unacceptable.
The head of the European Union delegation in Kenya, who called on Deputy President William Ruto, expressed the EU's support to Kenya's efforts in the fight against terror. Police are still treating the Likoni attack as a criminal and not a terror attack. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Now, a 2-year-old child is awaiting surgery to remove a bullet lodged in his brain more than 24 hours after he was shot. Setwin Osenya was shot in the head when the attackers raided the Joy in Jesus Church in Likoni yesterday, killing his mother, among other Sunday worshippers. And as KTN's Ferdinand Omondi reports, the boy's father is now grappling with funeral arrangements for his dead wife and the uncertainty of his son's fate.
Setwin Osenya stares curiously at the KTN camera and the strangers around him. By instinct, he calls out for his mama. But mama is not alive. She died protecting her son from gunmen who raided a church in Likoni area Sunday and opened fire on worshippers.
Hata sijapata nafasi ya kwenda kumwona bibi yangu, lakini alikufa jana. Wao ndio alikuwa mtu wa kwanza kupigwa risasi pale kanisani, kwa sababu alikuwa anatoka na mtoto nje. Wale magaidi wakaona ni kama huyu mtu ametuona anaenda kuripoti, ndio wakaanza na yeye, ndio wakafikia kwa pastor na watu wengine ambao walikuwa hapo.
It is thought the late Veronica Atieno Ouma died while shielding her son from the shots. She suffered multiple bullet wounds. Still, one bullet caught Setwin in the head. X-ray shots show the shiny cartridge lodged deep in his brain.
Today we managed to do a CT scan that has confirmed the bullet is in the brain. We are working with the unit in Kenyatta to see whether the child can be operated at Kenyatta.
The bullet has stayed in his brain for over 24 hours since he was shot because Coast General Hospital does not have a neurosurgeon. It is a glaring deficiency for the region's largest referral hospital, which also lacks equipment for such a surgery. Health Cabinet Secretary James Macharia, who visited Setwin among other patients of the gun attack, admitted that this was unacceptable.
Well, indeed, those concerns have been raised by management of the hospital, and we've been told that there used to be a neurosurgeon who retired, but that's no excuse of not having one. So we shall discuss with the management in Nairobi, with the Minister of Health, to see if we can actually have it dealt with, addressed.
KTN has since learned that the entire coast region has only one neurosurgeon, a retired military doctor who is now consulting for a private hospital.
You have to also understand that there are very few neurosurgeons in this country. But given this hospital is almost a national referral hospital, 700 beds, clearly they require a neurosurgeon. And that's one issue we shall be dealing with.
Benson is now grappling with two major pains: how to organize for his wife's funeral expenses as well as meet the cost of the surgery, all from the wages of casual labor.
Ni kuhangaika na vibarua vya hapa na pale. Kwa hivyo nikipata msaada, hata sijui huyu mwili wa bibi yangu kutoka hapa kufika nyumbani itakuwa namna gani. Sina uwezo wote.
Well, we shall do what we need to do to save life. If it needs actually spending money from national coffers to take the kid to Nairobi or to have the kid sponsored in a private hospital, that's what we have to do.
It may be a lucky day for Setwin. Thanks to state intervention, his life may be saved. Yet the family still mourns. Benson has lost a partner and mother of his 5 children, while Setwin will have to grow without the comfort of maternal love. Beyond the security questions in the aftermath of an attack is always a parallel storyline of the agony and trauma of families of those deceased or injured, often accompanied by the stresses of surging medical bills. It is a long walk back to peace of mind from the moment shots are fired. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, at the Coast General Hospital, Mombasa.
Such a tragic situation. Well, with an incident like that, more loopholes are exposed, and the president's security advisors are under close scrutiny over their handling of the sensitive docket. Tonight, KTN's Asha Mwilu reports on the failed security strategies and the way forward for the government.
If there's is one area the government has talked tough on, it's security.
Nothing we do to transform our country will matter if we do not get security right.
Government is pretty alert. Wakati munalala serikali hailali.
But even with a strong rhetoric, numerous attacks on Kenyan soil have left the country's weak spots exposed.
It's very easy to be critical. Oh, he does.
Security expert Conrad Thorpe, who has served with the British Royal Marines and the British Special Forces, says Kenyan agencies need to rethink their security strategies.
Countries that have dealt with terrorism for an awfully long time, for a very long time, such as the United Kingdom, such as countries in the Middle East, like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, have created excellent structures for dealing with terrorism. And I think Kenya, we would need to adapt to that as well.
The government's scanty funding into security has been faulted as one of the failing strategies. After the Westgate siege, Kenya had to bring in international allies to help with forensic probes. The state was also on the spot after it was reported that the anti-terror police unit was allocated barely $500,000 shillings for its operations between January and March.
It's been 15 years since we invested anywhere near the kind of funds or the quantum of funds that we require to effectively confront our security challenges.
You cannot make this country overnight into something, for example, that the US is, or indeed something in Western Europe is. We don't have the resources to hand yet to create all of those securities. These things will come in time. But right now, what we should try to do is, with the meager resources we do have, is focus those resources into areas where they perhaps are needed more than anything.
The latest series of attacks have also left the president's security advisors under the spotlight. President Uhuru Kenyatta has at least 6 people advising him on matters security. Michael Gishangi heads the intelligence unit. Julius Karangi is the chief of defense forces. David Kimayo is in charge of the police service. Ndegwa Muhoro heads the criminal investigative department. Joseph Olelenku sits in cabinet under the internal security docket, while Francis Kimemia chairs the National Security Advisory Council. And yet, the government's security strategies still appear flustered.
It takes a team to bring it together. The president has a number of fantastic ministers underneath him. Those sub-chiefs, so to speak, must have the courage to stand up and take responsibility and do the right thing for this country.
It's no doubt that the government is juggling a number of challenges in dealing with the evolving threats to Kenya's security. But as long as security chiefs approach the issue blindly, experts say Kenya will remain vulnerable to those risks. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
Well, having taken a look at that picture that Asha Mwilu just painted about the security situation in this country, we want to get your opinion this evening and ask you on our big Q whether you think that the country's security budget should actually be increased.
Well, give us your thoughts on that story on the security budgets. We shall be hoping to hear from you. The number is 22155. You can also join the conversation on Twitter at Ben_Kitili, at Kachungira, and at KTN Kenya. Shall be giving you the poll results at the end of this bulletin. And more sad news. A Class 8 student is nursing serious injuries after his own mother allegedly stabbed him on the chest. The mother is said to have been punishing the boy for, get this, breaking a plastic bucket. Etienne's Betty Kialo has the details of that shocking story.
It has been an agonizing night for Kevin. It's not his real name because we're obliged to conceal his identity. Nurses at the Thika Level 5 hospital have been attending to him, thus easing his healing process. Though stable, the nurses tell us that the injuries are deep and he will spend a few more days in hospital before he can be discharged. The mother is said to have stabbed him in the chest, blaming him for breaking a household bucket.
Nilipata ndoo ya yule imevunjika. Akaniuliza na amevunja, nikamwambia si mimi nilipata hivyo. Dakika kidogo mimi nikaenda kurudi kuchota maji, akanirushia kisu.
Back at his home, we meet an angry crowd. Neighbors try to gain access to the boy's home where the mother is hiding. According to them, this is not the first time the mother has attacked the boy. On several occasions, she's said to have even denied him food, and now they want her arrested.
Nimesha pitana na yeye siku mingi, akaniambia amekatakatwa, alikuwa amekatwa kwa mguu, kwa tumbo, hata hako na majeraha mingi sana kwa mwili.
Mimi simutaki hapa, nataka serikali inisaidie kumwondoa hapa.
At Kevin's school, learning is ongoing. His class teacher says that having been discontinued from school last year by his parents, Kevin had started catching up on lost time. But his absence from school yet again may have a negative impact on his studies as he is a candidate.
In class 7, he was among the best pupils, among the top 10. But after coming back, he was able to catch up.
As Kevin awaits corrective surgery, it's still not clear whether his parents will be apprehended. Mother who stabs her own son for breaking a bucket. It's a story that beggars belief. Let's change focus now. Tuberculosis is curable. That is the message this Global TB Day. Yet each year, more than 1 million people die from this disease that remains a leading killer, especially of people living with HIV. Now in Kenya, slum areas are said to record the highest cases of TB due to poor living conditions.
A drive through Kawangware, one can easily tell that the area is densely populated by the mere sight of the largely congested shelters. Definitely an environment for easy spread of infectious diseases like tuberculosis.
As the world marks World Tuberculosis Day, in Kenya, over 95,000 cases are recorded every single year. But of these cases, areas like Kawangware in Nairobi County happen to record some of the highest cases of tuberculosis. Today, we visit a family of 6, 4 of whom have been treated for TB.
James Nganga Wanjohi was the first of his family to get infected with tuberculosis back in 1995. And back then, many mistook the symptoms for HIV and AIDS.
Kwanza nilienda mahospitali mingi ya private, lakini sasa sikuweza kupata kujua ni ugonjwa gani ambaye nimegojeka.
Getting treatment was no easy task as he had no idea what exactly he suffered from. So he visited Mbagathi Hospital.
Kama umegojeka TB, ni kama kitu kama kazi, uweze endelea na kufanya kazi. Kwa sababu daktari anakuambia kwamba hustahili kufanya kazi gumu kwa sababu ya kifua.
Wanjohi went through treatment successfully and was cured of the disease. However, in 2011, one of his teen daughters was diagnosed with TB. Her treatment was easier than her father's as access to medical treatment was closer. She went through treatment and was cured too. And then came 2013, yet another daughter was diagnosed with TB. And months later, it was transmitted to her then 6-month-old baby, who is now a year old.
Kupatia mtoto kama huyu dawa for 6 months ni stress.
Riruta Medical Center has a clinic that offers comprehensive care to patients with TB and records overwhelmingly high numbers of tuberculosis cases in Nairobi County. Last year alone, there were 1,100 cases detected.
12 months down the line, we managed to cure 85% of all the cases that were enrolled. This is because 5% of the cases were lost to follow. Therefore, we could not get their treatment outcome. About 3% were transferred out to other districts.
It has 2. Treatment for TB is usually free of charge in government health centers and is taken for a period of 6 months. But for informal settlements like Kawangware, getting patients to adhere to treatment is one of the challenges.
We have slums near our area, so alcohol is in plenty. So when patient is on TB treatment,
and then they are taking alcohol, they are smoking. You cannot remove them from that.
Sometimes you go to the house and they refuse to be screened.
Most of the patients are mobile. Today they are there, tomorrow they are not there. And again, following up now such a patient is very tricky.
Some of the challenges that continue to face the fight against tuberculosis are stigmatization, misdiagnosis of the disease, as well as some patients just not wanting to know that they're actually suffering from tuberculosis. But Mr. Wanjohi's story here is one success story. Out of the 4 who were diagnosed with tuberculosis, all of them have been treated and are cured cases, including little Blessing here, who completed her dosage. That was last week. Joy during Bira, KTN.
A day after this senseless attack on the Joy in Jesus Church in Likoni, Mombasa, and tonight we are training our cameras on the President's security advices and the failed security strategies. On the big question we are asking you, do you think the country's security budget should be increased?
That's right. Let us know what you think, and you can do that by sending us an SMS on 22155, or you can tweet us at Ben_Kitili at Kachingira. Let's quickly take a look at what you have to say. And of course, one of the main issues here is the budget, the biggest problem that we have. And this is something that's touched on here by Svets, who says, no, the current budget is not used for its intended purpose. So what's needed is better welfare for juniors in charge.
Yatitzev says, yes, the war against terror cannot be won if we continue underfunding security ministry. Kenya should relook this. Well, keep sending those SMSs. The numbers we've told you, 22155. You can also join that conversation on Twitter. We'll now take a quick break, but don't go too far. This is KTN Prime.
Just ahead, praising and worshipping in sign language.
Tumesikitika sana wakati tumesikia kwa redio moto imetokea hapa, na hakika mali mingi imeharibika, na ile kitu ningeomba tu wahusika, serikali yetu ya mambo ya stima hii warekebishe kabisa, sababu tukiangalia ndio imeleta shida sana.
Welcome back. This is KTN Prime.
Across the border, as many as 98 bodies have been recovered from Lake Albert in Uganda after a boat capsized on Saturday. The United Nations Human Commission for Refugees said in its latest statement that there could have been as many as 250 people aboard the boat. KTN's Edith Kimani has the latest from the unfolding tragic events in neighboring Uganda.
The crowd on the shores of Lake Albert in Uganda is swelling. Curious eyes seeking a glimpse of the latest developments in a tragedy that has left 98 people dead. The UNHCR has reported that there are yet more bodies to be recovered. 41 people have, however, lived to tell the story. The capsized boat left the eastern side of the lake on Saturday, carrying an overloaded 250 Congolese refugees headed back home from Uganda to eastern DRC. Families have since flooded the Bundibugyo hospital in the northwest of Uganda from the Democratic Republic of Congo to identify the deceased. The Ugandan government, together with the UNHCR, is said to be facilitating transportation of bodies back to the DRC.
They are being advised by UNHCR not to move on their own on the waters, and if there is any need for movement, the UNHCR will make arrangements to make sure they move in an organized way.
Survivors are also receiving psychosocial help. Uganda is home to an estimated 175,000 Congolese refugees, although the UNHCR has reported a rise in sporadic returns to the DRC by the refugees. Uganda is also not new to boat tragedies after 70 people died in another boat capsize 4 years ago. Edith Kimani, KTN.
There's been a lot of unfortunate news in this bulletin, but let's go to something happier now. And it's a story about a church that is far from ordinary, the Emmanuel Church, especially for the hearing impaired. Indeed, the music, the preaching, and the prayers are all conducted in sign language. KTN's Sharon Momanyi attended Sunday prayers at this church and now brings us that story.
Like David.
Praise. Worship. It is Sunday morning and a part of the deaf community in Nairobi has gathered at the Emmanuel Church of the Deaf for worship. Many people are oblivious of the existence of such a church. Though they fellowship in silence, the spirit of worship is all loud in the air. But the service is in every way similar to that of the regular churches. The only difference is that everything here, from singing to preaching and praying, is done using the Kenyan Sign Language. Joseph Ndolo is one of the praise and worship leaders in the church. He lost his hearing to malaria at the age of 12 years.
And also I didn't know sign language by then. So as I was in school, I was learning at the same time learning sign language from ABCD, that's the alphabets. Then after that, I became a good signer.
The church also offers sign language classes. Innocent Nyamwea is one of the sign language instructors at the church. He gives us some insight into the language.
We had Durumo, who went to the US. After he came back to Kenya and introduced the sign language. So when some of us saw this was really very important for the deaf, because like in different schools they used to teach different signs. So we had donors who came, maybe from America. If we have donors, they use different signs in different schools. So this brought a lot of challenges and confusion.
And thus the quest to standardize and develop the Kenyan Sign Language was born.
But he loves you, but you still ignore him.
Sign language in different countries is developed within their unique social contexts.
When you go to KNAD, Kenya National Association for the Deaf, you ask about the committee. We have a chairman who is there, and so many of the deaf have gone to the university because of Kenya National Association of the Deaf. We also have Kenya Sign Language Research Project, who are doing the research for the different languages, trying to get different signs and coming up with that. There's a project that is going on at the University of Nairobi.
Deaf communication in the country was, however, up to a difficult start, and to date, some remote areas still do not have access to deaf schools.
Some parents are, at times they don't even know what to do with their children. So at times maybe they go to the hospital and tell the doctor, look for hearing aids. They don't believe they're in denial. So they just want to force it to their children. So they try and bring, hearing aids, and they start to teach you, oralism, and that is a bit tricky for the deaf person to understand.
Back to everyday life. How do they interact with the hearing world? For example, when they go for shopping or seek various services such as the salon or hairdresser, are the hearing patient enough to try and understand them?
When I go to a shop, to a supermarket, or to a salon, I usually carry a pen and a paper. Also, there are some things I can sign, like I need a bread, I need a soap, milk. Some I can sign, and the shopkeeper might understand them.
So is this Jesus? I attempt to learn a few signs, and yes, I will need more of those classes. At this point, I am curious. They have rather amusing signs for some of the country's prominent leaders. Is this usually with tongue-in-cheek?
When we come up with a sign name, it's just a normal way of, trying to identify a person. Sonko, the bling bling, Shebesh, Atuoli, yeah.
There is a proposal to include the Kenyan Sign Language into the regular school's curricula in order to promote the integration of the deaf community with the hearing community.
Yeah. Lord my God.
The hearing are also encouraged to take an interest in learning sign language basics to facilitate basic interaction with the deaf as part of the bigger inclusion agenda. It is estimated that there are about 800,000 to 1 million deaf people in the country who communicate by using the sign language. However, the Kenyan Sign Language currently has no legal status in the country, and there is a proposal to adopt it as well as Braille alongside English and Swahili as official languages. Sharon Omani, KTN, Nairobi.
What a wonderful story for deaf brothers and sisters there. Yes, and tonight we are focusing on the security. We are turning our cameras on the failed security strategies. We are asking you on the big question, do you think the country's security budget should be increased? And we have a few responses, Nancy.
Yes, we do, Ben. Quite a few, in fact. We've got one here from K Researcher who says we spend 15% of our budget on security. That is huge. So let's work on strategy instead of throwing more money at this.
Yes, Mamaya Manu on Twitter says life in Kenya cannot allow for an increment of the budget. It is generally hard.
Right. One here from Kenyan Scribe who says no, increasing the budget without addressing the root causes of insecurity will amount to naught.
Anita Omuko has an interesting view. He says, do we have to be in Somalia? How about retreating and securing our borders? Well, thank you for those. Keep them coming. The number is 22155. You can also send them on our Twitter platform. Time now to take a look at what's happening in the world of business, and KTN's Bonnie Tunya is in our business studio to give us the latest. Bonnie, what is happening in this first day of business of the week?
Ben, we have some good news coming from Turkana, because finally we have a grant that will open up a windmill, basically generating energy from wind in that part of the country. Stay tuned. Hello and good evening. My name is Bonnie Tunya. This is KTN Business. After 8 years, the financing agreement has finally been signed, clearing the way for Africa's largest wind power project in Turkana. Here's KTN's Adelaide Changole with the rest of that report.
Turkana covers 13% of Kenya's landmass and is known for drought, hunger and poverty, and an unusual climatic phenomenon.
9 years ago, Willem went fishing in Lake Turkana. I think you know the story. No fish, but a lot of wind. It was very windy.
And this climatic condition has made Turkana one of the best wind resources in the world, hence the Lake Turkana Wind Project.
Once constructed, Lake Turkana Wind Power will be the largest single wind power project in Africa. At 623 million euros, or 75 billion shillings, it is to date the largest single private investment in the history of Kenya.
The project is expected to turn around the fortunes of residents in Loyangalani, as well as contribute significantly to Kenya's power needs.
During project construction and operations, hundreds of jobs and decent incomes will be created for Kenyans in the Turkana region, but across the country. Similarly, once this project is completed, it will provide 300 megawatts of power, affordable and renewable energy to all Kenyans.
Currently, Kenya's power demand is way above supply, both at the domestic and industrial levels. The 300 megawatts from this project, government says, could not have come at a better time.
3 Kenyans out of 10 currently have power. You will transform that to 8 Kenyans out of 10 having power. Bonagituro. Can you imagine the extent of the economic activities that you'll open up?
Over 400 kilometers of transmission lines to connect the project to the national grid is also in the pipeline. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
Tea prices have fallen by 30% from an average of $3.70 last year to just $2 this season. This is bound to impact tea farmers' earnings despite the high production this year. Here's Michael Karanja.
Tea farmers in Kenya are taking a hit as global oversupply has seen prices plummet to a 7-year low. This comes several months after low bonuses were announced would be paid out to them. A kilo of tea sold at an average price of $2.07 for smallholders at the Mombasa auction against $3.15 at the same period last year. Prices for other teas averaged $2 per kilo of made tea at the same auction, the lowest price since 2008. The problem stems from the over 200 kilograms of tea that have not been consumed over the last 3 years that are still being traded.
Hatuwezi kufurahia maana unajua hapa tunategemea kwa upande wa shule, school fees, kila kitu, chakula ni hapa. Na unajua hizi mashamba sasa tuliweka majani chai. Mahali pa kuweka ng'ombe ni pahali padogo karibu kama nusu eka hivi.
Tumeona hiyo bei ni ngumu. Yaani haitaweza kutusaidia sisi wakulima kwa sababu hiyo ikiwa kidogo hakuna kitu ambayo tunafanya kwa kasi ya chai.
According to the Kenya Tea Development Authority, tea producers should brace themselves for a drop in prices. The ripple effect of this is bound to be felt on the economy that relies on tea earnings for its foreign exchange. KTDA is, however, still optimistic that small-scale tea farmers will still earn relatively good returns. The authority, however, cautioned farmers to borrow carefully in line with anticipated reduced earnings. KTDA is currently scouting for new tea markets in Europe, America, Asia, and Africa to accommodate the excess tea supply. So far, the agency has identified Russia, China, and Kazakhstan as potential markets. Michael Karanja, KTN Business.
Equity Bank has partnered with the London-based firm VFX Financial in a bid to join the lucrative diaspora remittances in that particular business. Here's KTN's Charles Gitonga with the details.
The service, the bank says, comes after enhancement of their core banking system and will enable individuals and corporates to transact easily between the two countries at a low cost of 1% of their total remittance.
From the average cost that we know Kenyans in the diaspora pay of 13% to do remittances, will now, on average, it will be costing 1%.
A lot of transactions will cost £1 only, and if there is a payment to another bank within Kenya, the customer will pay no more, so there is no additional cost to the customer.
The bank, which currently handles 16% of diaspora remittances, says the product further positions them to handle higher sums of inflows, which were quoted at $113.2 million by December 2013.
We will be extending this service within the month, and I mean the month of March, to bill payment, such that it's not just now diaspora remittances, but tourists can be able to pay these for their tourist hotel fees.
Remittances, being the fourth largest source of foreign exchange, have attracted various players who seek to mint profits from the growing inflows. Some of these include Western Union, MoneyGram, and Safaricom.
We believe in 3 months we'll have spread this service to the whole of Europe, such that it's not about UK. We are starting with UK today, but by the end of the next month, we'll be in most of the European countries.
The lender also noted that this platform is an empowerment of e-commerce transactions with access of money via ATMs, bank agents, and mobile money. Charles Gitonga, KTN Business.
Well, that report was by KTN Business's latest entrant, Charles Gitonga. We'll be hearing a lot of him in this particular bulletin. But let's see what else made headlines in the world of business coming up next in our corporate briefs.
Brookside Dairy has reduced its farm gate milk prices by 5 shillings for every litre it buys from local farmers. The company, in a statement to Newsroom, said the price review would take effect from April. This, it defended, was as a result of a drop in milk retail prices across the country. Elsewhere, regional wheat farmers have been put on alert over stem rust disease. This, according to wheat experts, follows reports of the stem rust disseminating more than 10,000 hectares of wheat in southern Ethiopia. Wind models, the experts added, indicate the disease also could spread in a southwesterly direction towards Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda. Finally, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Nyeri County Government, and the Coffee Millers and Marketing Agents Association have agreed that direct sales and marketing of coffee will be centralized in the county. However, farmers and the societies can still sell their coffee to any other willing buyer. This decision is part of the government strategy to revive the declining coffee industry hit hard by low production, poor pricing, and returns for farmers. Joseph Bonyo, KTN Business.
Right, on that coffee beat by Joseph Bonyo, we take a look at how the market opened today, Monday, with a look at the financial market report coming up next. That's all we had for you this Monday in business. On the day that Olympia was the biggest decliner, losing ground in just about 10 percentage points with a good price of 135. More numbers coming tomorrow. My name is Bonnie Twin. Back to Ben.
Thanks, Bonnie. Bonnie there with the latest in business. And we do wish you a successful business week. Now to our top story. Close to 100 people have been arrested in connection with yesterday's raid by gunmen on the Joy in Jesus Church in Likoni, Mombasa. The arrests followed an overnight and day-long operations by the police at the coast. This comes as senior government officials led by Interior Secretary Joseph Olelenku held a crisis meeting following the attack. President Uhuru Kenyatta has also issued a stern warning to those he says are out to cause mayhem in the name of religion. And that is the basis of a big question we are asking. Do you think the country's security budget should be increased?
Right, and we're actually getting quite a lot of differing opinions. We'd like to get yours as well. And you can do that by tweeting us at Kachingira, at Ben_Kitili, at KTN Kenya. You can also send us an SMS on 22155. Ben, what are you getting so far?
Kevin Ganga says the top 6 security advisors to the president should simply resign. Long overdue.
Okay. And another one here that's from Ibrahim Adan, who says, can we first account for the current allocation expenditure, or does it go into holes at Harambee House?
James Samuel says a country faced with fear of terror attacks allocates heavily on security, for example, the US.
Well, keep those opinions coming. Of course, we'll give you a poll result at the tail end of this bulletin. Let's go now to our sports studio. Nick Mudimba is in the house with the latest, all the sporting action. Good to see you, Nick. What's new?
Good to see you, Nancy. And of course, today we'll be focusing on the development of talent in this country and, of course, what next from the KPL weekday matches. And tomorrow, we'll be giving you the preview where Manchester United will be taking on Manchester City. Stay tuned to KTN Prime.
In cracks where cockroaches hide, use Mortein Doom Power Guard in drains to kill them before they come out. Spray Mortein Doom Power Guard in dustbins too. Mortein Doom! The ultimate cockroach killer.
Right, we end our bulletin tonight with a look at our big Q and what you had to say. We asked you this evening whether you think that the country's security budget should be increased.
Well, let's see how you polled, and for once in a very long time we have a tie. It is 50-50. 50% of you who voted or who had a say on our big question tonight say yes, and 50% say no. Very quickly, Patrick Simpson says yes, the country's security budget should be increased. Without security, the country cannot move ahead.
Romano Mirchia says, no, money will never be a solution because it will never be enough. We have social decay problems.
Willie David says instead of allocating more money, let's license more Kenyans to possess firearms. If the people have licensed arms, crime will reduce.
Wow, don't know about that one. Michael Bura says the answer lies in reforming the NSIS and CID. Fresh ideas are needed. Gichangi and Degwa have to be replaced.
Thank you for participating on the big question tonight on this first day of the week. We'll see you tomorrow. My name is Ben Kitili. Good night from the Standard Group Center.
I'm Nancy Kachingira, and our sign language interpreter this evening was Neresha Owiti. Thank you so much for your company. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Good night for now.